What's happening? Oh, what you do that for?
We thought you were our father.
Dwayne's too young to be your father.
The behind-the-scenes revelation would leave you stunned. There were many sitcoms in the 1970s, but nothing came close to What's Happening. Set in Los Angeles' Watts neighborhood, most viewers saw it as a fun comedy, one that tackled real issues and showed the challenges of growing up in a working-class black family. But the cast later revealed it was more than that. Behind the scenes were struggles that no one would have suspected until now. What were some of the challenges the cast encountered behind the scenes? What led to the sudden end of this show? Join us as we reveal what most fans never figured out: a last-minute switch. When What's Happening first aired on August 5, 1976, few expected it to become one of television's most talked-about sitcoms. Born from the creative mind of Eric Monty, the same man behind Good Times, the series was loosely inspired by his hit film Cooley High. What made it stand out immediately was its focus. It was the first American TV show to center on the everyday lives of black teenagers, mixing humor with real issues in a way television had never done before. Initially launched as a short summer series, What's Happening was only meant to fill airtime. But when other shows failed and viewers couldn't get enough of its charm, when producers first started working on What's Happening, no one expected it to become one of the most memorable sitcoms of the late 70s. The project quietly began taking shape inside ABC television studios in Los Angeles, where the first episode was filmed before a live audience on March 16, 1976. That episode, called The Birthday Present, was meant to kick off the entire series. But things didn't go exactly as planned. After shooting the pilot, the team went back to work 3 months later, in June, to film 3 more episodes. The network's goal wasn't to launch a major new show, it was simply to test the waters with a short summer series. ABC planned to air it in August 1976 to see how viewers would respond. Behind the scenes, however, the creators were already thinking strategically. They knew they had something special on their hands but needed a strong first impression. So instead of starting with the original pilot, they made a bold choice that would change everything. The episode that eventually aired first wasn't The Birthday Present at all. It was another one titled The Runaway. This was a calculated move. The producers realized that The Runaway showed off Fred Berry's infectious energy and unforgettable dance moves, which instantly stood out. Berry's charisma, his timing, and that famous dance sequence gave the show an immediate spark that hooked audiences right from the start. That quick switch turned out to be a masterstroke. The Runaway became the official debut episode when What's Happening hit television screens in August. Viewers didn't just enjoy the laughs, they connected with the fun, the rhythm, and the characters' real-life charm. Fred Berry, who played Rerun, quickly became the breakout star, and his dance moment became a fan favorite. From that first broadcast, the show's identity was sealed. What started as a modest summer test soon found itself climbing in popularity, driven by Berry's performance and the chemistry between the cast. The audience's reaction was so strong that ABC decided this small project was worth keeping around longer than planned. It's fascinating how one last-minute decision, switching a premiere episode, could shift the entire future of a series. If The Birthday Present had aired first, the show might not have captured that same excitement or energy. But by leading with The Runaway, the network gave audiences exactly what they didn't know they were waiting for: a feel-good, dance-filled sitcom with heart. At first, everything looked perfect, a smart choice that seemed destined to win. But soon, unseen problems started creeping in. What set them off? Walkouts, power plays, and studio secrets. What started as a fun, light-hearted sitcom quickly turned into a backstage battlefield. After What's Happening proved itself with an unexpectedly strong summer run, ABC rushed to keep the momentum going. More episodes were ordered for a November 1976 release, and production was moved to a bigger facility, the Golden West Videotape Division Studios. It was older, less glamorous, but offered more space for what the network hoped would be a long, successful series. But behind the laughter, tensions were quietly building. Fame was hitting fast, and Fred Berry, the fan favorite who played Rerun, was no longer willing to play by the old rules. Armed with the show's first season success, Berry started pushing back. He wanted to get a higher pay and also demanded better treatment for himself and his fellow cast members. What started as a reasonable demand soon turned into a storm that would shake the entire production. As pressure mounted, Berry's standoff drew others in. The tension spilled into the second season during the filming of the episode, If I'm Elected. Mid-production, the situation exploded beyond control. Berry and his co-star Mabel King Thomas decided they'd had enough. Cameras were rolling, scripts were ready, but the stars simply walked out without a backward glance. That sudden walkout threw everything into chaos. The episode had to go on, and the remaining cast members were forced to carry it. Haywood Nelson, barely in his 20s, suddenly became the entire focus of the story. Shirley Hemphill stepped forward with unexpected confidence, while Brian O'Dell and a young Debbie Morgan were pulled into larger roles to save the episode. Behind closed doors, producers scrambled. The walkout wasn't just about money or the need to be compensated accordingly, it was about power play. Fred Berry had made himself the face of the show, but that fame came with consequences. Producer Bud Yorkin wasn't about to lose control of his hit series. His response was swift and ruthless. Yorkin suspended both Fred and Thomas, making it clear that rebellion wouldn't be tolerated. But the punishment didn't end there. To return to the show, the pair were forced to sign promissory notes worth $25,000 each. The situation left the cast divided and the crew shaken. On screen, What's Happening looked like a feel-good sitcom filled with friendship and laughs. Off-screen, it was a power struggle of egos, frustration, and quiet resentment. The audience had no idea that while they were watching Rerun dance and joke, chaos was unfolding behind the studio doors. For a show built on humor and togetherness, the truth was far messier and far more dramatic than anyone watching from home could have imagined. Interestingly, the drama did not end with Fred and Thomas, but was equally as disastrous. What else happened behind the scenes? The behind-the-scenes clash. That silenced Mama, while What's Happening continued to make viewers laugh on screen, the atmosphere behind the cameras was anything but cheerful. Mabel King, who played the beloved Mama, wasn't just another cast member. She cared deeply about the message the show sent to its audience. During the second season, she boldly approached producers with an idea that she believed would make the sitcom stronger and more meaningful. King wanted her character's ex-husband Bill, played by Thalmus Rasulala, to return as a full-time figure in the series. Her goal was simple yet powerful: to show a united black family on television, something rarely portrayed at the time. She believed that by bringing the parents back together, the show could present a positive, balanced image that reflected real-life struggles and hope within the black community. But the producers didn't see it that way. They rejected her proposal without much discussion, choosing to keep the storyline exactly as it was. That decision didn't sit well with King. What she viewed as a missed opportunity for representation, the studio saw as unnecessary drama. And just like that, the tension that had been simmering quietly began to boil over. From that moment on, things started to change for Mabel King, and not for the better. The woman who once played a central, grounding role in the show suddenly found herself pushed to the background. Mama, the strong and loving mother who held the family together, was now barely seen. Instead of being part of the main action, King's appearances became rare and short. Her character was often written out of scenes with simple excuses. Mama's at work, or Mama went to the store. Sometimes she'd appear briefly, only to exit moments later. The warmth and humor she brought to the show were quietly fading, replaced by a noticeable emptiness on screen. Behind the scenes, the message was clear. Her voice had been heard, but it wouldn't be acted on. Mabel King's efforts to influence the storylines, to make them more meaningful, had come at a cost. The woman who had once been the heart of the show was now almost invisible. For fans watching at home, the change might have seemed subtle at first, but for those who knew what was really happening behind the studio walls, it was a silent conflict, one that showed just how much control the producers held, and how little room there was for actors to shape the stories they helped bring to life. Mabel King's fight wasn't just about her character. It was about representation and the desire to tell stories that mattered. Sadly, the very passion that made her stand out became the reason she was slowly written out of the spotlight. From there on, there was a downward spiral that the show never recovered from. Let's explore the things that led to the end of the show. The third season shakeup that changed What's Happening forever. By the time What's Happening entered its third season, the show audiences once knew had transformed almost completely. The carefree high school days were over, and with them, much of the show's original heart. Raj and Rerun, once the lovable teens viewers rooted for, were now stepping into adulthood. After years of repeating grades, 7 to be exact, Rerun finally graduated, his struggle with a learning disability woven into the storyline. Together, he and Raj moved into a small apartment near the University of Southern California, marking the beginning of a new chapter both on and off screen. But not everyone made the move. Mabel King, the powerhouse actress behind the show's matriarch, was gone. Her departure was quietly written into the story with a simple explanation. Mama had left for Phoenix to care for a sick relative. In truth, her exit followed mounting creative tensions from the previous season, when her ideas about portraying a stronger family unit had been ignored. With her gone, the show lost its emotional anchor. To fill the gap, producers made a surprising decision. Shirley, the sassy diner waitress loved for her quick comebacks, moved into the Thomas household as both a boarder and Dee's new guardian. It was a dramatic change that shifted the show's tone, lighter, faster, and more focused on comedic moments than family warmth. The series also introduced new faces in an attempt to refresh its storylines. One of them was the Snake, a basketball player Raj tutored and nicknamed for his slick moves both on and off the court. Played by Leland Smith, the character added a bit of swagger and edge to the mix. Then came a duo no one expected, a white police detective named Big Earl Barnett and his son Little Earl, the quirky neighbors in Raj and Rerun's apartment building. Their addition was meant to add contrast and new humor, but it also gave the series a noticeably different dynamic. While these changes kept the story moving, something about the show's spirit felt off. Fans who had fallen in love with the warmth of the Thomas family noticed the shift immediately. What was once a show about friendship, family, and community was now leaning heavily on situational humor and side characters. Behind the scenes, the transformations hinted at deeper troubles, contract disputes, creative disagreements, and cast fatigue. On screen, it played out as a show trying to reinvent itself while holding on to what little remained of its original charm. By the end of the third season, it was clear that What's Happening wasn't the same show it had started as. The laughter was still there, but the magic, the sense of heart that once defined it, had quietly slipped away, and that was the beginning of the end. But before the end of the show, there was a twist that no one saw coming. What was it about, and what impact did this twist have on the show? The missed opportunity that sparked a TV legend. Behind the final season of What's Happening is a twist that almost changed television history. The role of Little Earl, the mischievous young neighbor, wasn't originally meant for David Hollander. It was created for someone else entirely. At the time, ABC's president, Fred Silverman, had his eyes on a rising child actor he believed would become the next big star, a 10-year-old named Gary Coleman. Silverman was convinced Coleman had something special, a charm that could light up any screen. He wanted the young actor added to What's Happening, to bring fresh energy and attract younger audiences. The plan was simple. Introduce Coleman as Little Earl, pair him with his on-screen father, Big Earl, and watch the show take on new life. But fate had other plans. Just as the idea was gaining traction, everything changed behind the scenes. In 1978, Silverman left ABC to take over as president of NBC, and with his move, Gary Coleman's future shifted, too. No longer tied to What's Happening, Silverman decided to build something entirely new around the young star he had so much faith in. That new project became Different Strokes. Centered around Coleman's quick wit and irresistible personality, the show exploded in popularity. It ran for 8 years and turned Coleman into one of the most recognizable child stars in television history. His signature line, "What you talking about, Willis?" became a cultural phenomenon, and his fame far outshone What's Happening could have offered. For ABC, it was a case of what might have been a missed chance that walked right out the door when Silverman left. For Coleman, it was the opportunity of a lifetime. What began as a small part on one sitcom turned into the role that defined a generation of TV comedy. It's almost ironic. A single casting decision that never happened ended up shaping two very different paths. What's Happening continued on with its changes and challenges, while Different Strokes became a global hit, proving that sometimes what seems like a loss for one show can spark a legend for another. This little twist was what triggered the end of the show, what eventually led to the end of a show that resonated with so many people. The explosive end of What's Happening. By the third season, the cracks in What's Happening had widened into chaos. Behind the smiles and laughter that fans saw on screen, tensions had reached a boiling point. Fred Berry, still unhappy with his pay and feeling underappreciated despite his star power, once again threatened to walk off the set. His demands had already shaken the show before, but this time, things went even further. The dispute erupted during the 1978 to 1979 season, and the strain became impossible to ignore. Berry refused to appear in the episode D, the cheerleader, making his absence painfully clear to viewers. Mabel King had already left the show, and now Berry's protest threatened to bring production to a standstill. But Berry wasn't alone. Co-star Ernest Thomas decided to stand by him, joining the fight for better treatment and fairer pay. Together, they confronted the show's executive producers in a tense behind-the-scenes meeting that quickly spiraled into a shouting match. What began as a demand for equality soon turned into an explosive confrontation. At the height of the argument, Berry accused the producers of racism, a bold claim that stunned everyone in the room. The atmosphere turned toxic, and any hope of finding common ground disappeared. The once tight-knit cast was now divided, and the production team had lost control. Unable to reach an agreement and weary of the constant disruptions, the producers made a drastic decision. Rather than continue fighting, they pulled the plug. The show that had once captured the hearts of millions came to an abrupt end. On April the 28th, 1979, What's Happening aired its final episode. There was no big farewell, no warning, just a quiet ending to a show that had once represented joy, friendship, and everyday life in a relatable Black community. For fans, the cancellation felt sudden, but those inside the studio knew it had been brewing for months. The tension, the disputes, and the clashing egos had finally pushed the series beyond repair. Even after the curtain fell, the cast's paths took different turns. Shirley Hemphill, known for her sharp humor and magnetic personality, managed to bounce back. Just a year later, she landed her own sitcom, 1 in a Million. It premiered in January 1980, giving her a fresh start, though it only lasted a few months before ending that July. The downfall of What's Happening remains one of television's most striking examples of how success can crumble from within. What had begun as a groundbreaking show full of promise ended in bitterness and accusations, leaving behind a legacy that was as turbulent as it was unforgettable. If the cast and producers had found common ground, would What's Happening still hold the same place in people's hearts today? Or would audiences have simply moved on to the next big show? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.